Hey guys, this is Zenith Darksky with another episode of Darksky Gaming Podcast. I wanted to try to get this episode out before Elden Ring launches because it is about open world games. And it's really just a sad excuse to talk about how hyped I think we all are for Elden Ring, and probably everyone just about at the moment. But yeah, so welcome. Um, okay. All right. So with me, I have Valion Lightstar, who has been with us on, I believe it was season two, a couple episodes of season two, of the podcast before, and we have Tidy Teddy Bear here, who I think was in the last episode with us. So
What's up?
yeah,
How's it going?
hey guys, how you doing? How's your guys' day going?
It's been
Grinding
good.
Lost Ark.
Grinding Lost Ark. There you go. What about you, Tidy?
I recently updated Warzone and have been playing that some. I actually, right before we did this, died to a hacker.
Oh, there you go. That's why you should uninstall it. No, I'm kidding. I have fun on Warzone, man. I don't think it's too bad. I know everyone shits on it, but it's just if Activision would handle the goddamn cheaters like they're supposed to, then that's the biggest thing. I haven't actually had too many problems with cheaters. My problems with that game lie within like issues like balancing and stuff like that. But other than that, I think Warzone's fine for casual battle royale. So it's interesting that you've been kind of getting back into that thing. I've been trying to maybe try to push to get back into it as well, but we'll see how that goes. What got you back into Warzone?
Just some of the guys, they were just like, "Yo, come over here, play this with us, and let's just have a good time." I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." Played like 10, 15 games and ran
Right.
into one hacker. So, I mean, that's better than what it was.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the best way to play any battle royale, really, but especially Warzone is get a full group of guys together and just play it and have fun. Don't worry about it. And just have a good time. And usually that's always going to turn out pretty good. But we're here to talk about. I mean, battle royales are pretty big maps, but a little bit bigger on the scale. We're talking about open world games. Now, just to kind of introduce the topic here, this topic actually was an idea that popped up from conversation on stream with Valion. We were talking about open world games, and he was talking about the potential of open world like game burnout and stuff right now, which was a new idea to me because I've played so many different games on my stream that I don't play one type too much that anything ever gets super burnout to me. I get burnout on games, but yeah. So it was a new idea to me, and I looked into it, and I definitely did find some articles that were saying that were talking about how there was a period of time, and especially this was around the article that I found that was really talking about it was around 2018, talking about how I guess at the time there's just so many big open world games, and just people weren't super into it, I guess, the open world thing at the time. Valion, if you want to elaborate a little bit more on that, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah. So first, I think the best place to start with that idea is, and this is to clarify, I personally think open world games are fine. I love some of them. Some of them I don't really play because they're not my aesthetic. But I think to really get a grasp of what we're talking about when we say open world, it helps to go with kind of a definition, and I just ripped this from Wikipedia. Open world is a game mechanic, so it's not really a genre. I tend to think of it kind of like a genre or style,
Right.
but really it's not. It's a mechanic of using a virtual world that the player can explore and approach objects freely, as opposed to a world with more linear and structured gameplay. While
Right.
games have been used open world design since the 1980s, the implementation in Grand Theft Auto 3 and 2000 World set a standard for what's been used since. And those are the kinds that we're talking about.
Right.
Because, apparently in the 1970s there was open world text-based games, which is wild. But
I
like
could
you,
see it. I could see it.
there are several articles on it. One that I found that's really good, and I'm going to give him all credit here, is written by Ethan Moss over at keengamer.com. I have never used that site before, but this dude does a really good job of putting into words a lot of the issues that I have heard about it. And there's a few things that tend to be the big issues that you see with people getting fatigued. The number one thing I would say is the amount of them. Open world games are being put out by every studio these days, and at least probably 2 or 3 a year. And I can definitely see that because it's not video games, but a similar argument is, and you've heard me make this before,
Yeah.
zombies being overused
Yeah.
in everything. But it's mainly problematic from a few studios. So it's not everyone. And those studios are like Ubisoft.
Oh, yeah.
Ubisoft Assassin's Creed series. They're
Yeah.
pretty much all open
Far
world
Cry.
to some extent. Far Cry. Uh, who's the other big studio that makes that?
Um.
There's another one that's real bad about it too. I can't think of it.
Yeah, I'm not
Oh,
sure.
BioWare. EA
BioWare, yeah,
in
yeah,
general.
EA, yeah.
Um,
I mean, that's the two
as
problematic studios, anyways, most of the time.
for sure. And just not to spend too much time on these points so everyone can discuss stuff. Another one that comes up is the games are open. Games are open world for the purpose of being open world with no real purpose or theme behind them. When I say that, we're talking a lot of the games you'll see on Steam that get created and are just thrown out there that are kind of aimless. A lot of people would accuse Minecraft of being that way. I don't agree with that. Minecraft is a survival craftable
Yeah,
sandbox open
yeah,
world game.
that's definitely a different vibe in general.
Yeah. Another thing is decision making paralysis that comes up for a lot of people. Like if you stack a game with a lot of decisions and a lot of things to do, a lot of side quests, for some people that's great. For other people, it actually creates anxiety, and that's not what you want
Right.
when you have video games. Another big thing, the quality, because we're seeing so many, it's quantity over quality these days, and we've seen that affect. Again, referring to Assassin's Creed, open
Right.
world games seem to be especially problematic with that issue because you have day zero and day one patches, and out of all the games that have had those in the past 10 years, I bet if you went and rounded them up, the majority of them would be considered open world mechanic games.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but the lack of quality is starting to get worse on that. We do see shining examples of great open world games still come out. I'm not saying that there's not. Dying Light 2, had some misses, but great game.
Oh yeah.
Or at least pretty good. Of course, Elden Ring coming up. I haven't really looked much at early reviews, but I haven't seen anything negative about it.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything negative so far.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which to give Ubisoft credit was better than
Right.
some of the other entries. But
Right.
yeah, and those are the things that a lot of people are usually reporting when they say open world. And I'm going to use the term fatigue because when we were initially discussing it that one night, I went back and tried to look for the articles I found, and I kept putting open world Burnout. I was
And you
like, I'm
get
not
Burnout
pulling up any.
Paradise and Burnout fucking should Burnout be open world? And it's like, God damn it, brother.
It's like, I know I'm not crazy. I know I've seen a bunch of shit talk about
Yeah. Well,
this,
when
but
you brought it up with me, I had found a couple immediately because it was on stream and I searched it there and found a couple. But yeah, you find out a lot of stuff about burnout, and then you also find a lot of articles saying like, here's one: how to avoid burnout and finish any open world game. You know, they're talking about specifically just playing an open world game and getting burnt out on that game. You know, how to avoid that.
yeah,
These articles were, so it was like, yeah. I had no problem finding some of the articles that you were referencing, and then later when I looked it up, I couldn't find shit.
yeah. So if you search open world fatigue, you get a lot more examples. But yeah, the article from Ethan Moss, which I have to say, just quick shout out to him, because something I know we both agree on. Tech and gaming journalism generally is bad these days, and
Yeah.
I'm sure we could do an entire episode on that sometime. But um, Ethan Moss, the way that the dude wrote the article, see if I can pull it back up here. See, open world fatigue. Here we go, and I'll just post
Yeah,
this
it's
in our
the
little.
first one I think that pops up. Yeah.
Um, he does a fantastic job, and I just want to shout him out for being a competent journalist in a
Right.
time where we don't have many left.
Yeah. I mean, for the last 10 years now, most video game journalists and stuff like that even joke about all the time there is no video game journalism, you know. And like you said, we could talk about that forever. So yeah, it's very nice to see. And I like that. Just skimming over this here, you get you get a whole. I mean, he's got this categorized here, you know, into like he's talking about like time constraints, RPG repetition, quantity over quality. What's the solution? And I like that. I like that this guy's got that kind of going on here, where it's like he even offers a solution to it, which is something you don't see a whole lot. So yeah, shout out to this guy for sure.
Yeah, and to be fair, when I brought up that criticism and what I'm saying now, I'm not saying that open world games are bad. I think they're
No.
always going to be around. It's just part of the environment now, just like there are always probably going to be MOBAs and shooters and games with high tick rate mechanics like Valorant,
Yeah,
which is a
yeah.
shooter. But yeah, it's the fact that there are so many and they tend to overweigh them with things.
Yeah.
Uh,
Also, something I want to note here, a big thing with it to me is it seems like they're all copying the same formula. There's a formula and they're all doing it. They all do the same one. Like you could take you could take Far Cry from Ubisoft, and then go take it's a poor example, but I'm gonna use it. The Witcher 3 even. And CD Projekt Red, especially with Witcher 3, you know, no hate to them. They've made their mistakes for sure, but especially with Witcher 3, though, you know, no hate to them on that game specifically. But yeah, you take that game and compare them, and there's a lot of unique stuff to do in Witcher 3, but even Witcher 3 has that kind of formula where here's here are these regions or whatever you can go to, and it's open world. But it still boils down to here's collectibles, here's your missions, go here, go across here, do this, do that. Don't get me wrong, Witcher 3 performs or pulls this off way better than any Ubisoft open world game, in my opinion. Because there's just so much in terms of quests and stuff like that packed in there. There's so much interesting stuff to do, I should say.
for sure.
Because an Ubisoft game, I feel like with a lot of these open world games are taking the collectathon idea of a bunch of Ubisoft games like Assassin's Creed and Far Cry, where more so than going around killing people, you're almost addicted to that feeling of going around and looking for the collectibles around the map, and they all try to take and do that. but they don't try to do the rest of it super unique, and they don't even really try to make the collectathon unique. It's just find stuff hidden. But yeah, so I feel like really what's happening here is there's just a formula and nobody wants to change it.
Yeah, and that's the big thing he brings up as a solution. It's like he doesn't have a specific solution, so sorry for studios out there if you were looking for an idea, but definitely innovation. There needs to be innovation with the mechanic and with whatever genre they want to attach to it.
Right.
But yeah, and I totally agree with that. I don't want to play the same formulaic game every time. Nobody does. But
yeah, I think one of the things that I think that could add a little bit of a solution to this is give us some real big nice open world games, but you don't give us too much to do. Now, I know that would feel a little empty and everything, and that has its own issues, and there's things that you could do to maybe try to add a little stuff to make certain things empty or less empty. But they all try to give you hundreds of boring side quests. There's no, Witcher 3, I think, does their side quests very good because their side quests are interesting in a way. But, and then they make this open world, and then the main quest is go here, go here, go here, go here, go here, go here. And it's like, you don't have to do that. Make me go one place and just make that moment interesting for me. And, maybe make the journey there, have some scripted moments that are going to happen along the journey to that area more interesting rather than just making me walk across the world to do stuff and, and that's all you're doing. I just feel like you could still make something open linear, if you know what I mean, without making it boring linear, because that's what with Dying Light 2 is a great example. Dying Light 2 is a good game, and I like it, but it does suffer from that, I think, in the missions where it's like, okay, talk to this person, now fucking run 500 meters back the other way and talk to this person again when you have a radio. You have a radio. Let me go here, hit me over the radio, and then make something big happen here, or while I'm going over there, halfway, before I get there halfway or something, stop me and say, oh, wait, this is happening, or whatever, and, about that time, then you get ambushed, or, there's things that you could do to make the moments more cinematic so that it doesn't feel like a boring runaround, basically,
Yeah. And I think a great example of that actually in recent years, and I know I'm going to get some hate from people for this, and it's nothing against the game. I even played it myself a bit. I liked it. Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact is a really good current example of the current issue with a formulaic open world game. Like it's a grind fest, it's a collect fest.
Right.
And the story, admittedly, it does have an okay story. So I'll give it that. But yeah, it's the kind of thing that I was afraid of seeing after Breath of the Wild set such a high mark. What was it now? 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago, even maybe
something like that.
But yeah, no offense to people who love that game. If you love the game, that's fine. And that's not what I was trying to say with any of these criticisms. Is I'm not saying that any particular person should hate these, or that someone in particular has fatigue or anything like that. But
right.
These things sell, and when they sell, these companies look at that and go, "Hey, that's money. We like money." And then they keep doing it.
Yeah, and I mean, I say it all the time, and I'm gonna be hypocritical here. So hold on to your pants, everybody. But something I complain about with video games all the time is that sometimes with games they try to change too much with like a sequel or whatever, and sometimes I'm like, hey, don't fix it if it isn't broken, and I mean that, and I still stand by that. I'll die on that hill, but when I say that, I also don't want people to take it too literal, because there still needs to be a little innovation from game to game. Even I can, can suffice, or can say that, Um, but like I think Borderlands. I was just talking about this in the stream the other day. I think Borderlands is a great example. Borderlands, and we have our gripes about which game and different games and stuff like that. But still, Borderlands 1 gives you a great formula. Gives you a great. Borderlands 2 could have been the same thing Borderlands 1 was, the same exact thing, but they don't give you that. They add badass ranks, they add raids, and like they give you kind of the idea of raids with Borderlands 1, but now they've really like went in on the idea of raids. They give you they flesh out the leveling system to where it's definitely you're building builds now instead of just building a character that's going to do this or that. Now you can really change some minute things, and you have these extravagant class mods and everything. And then Borderlands 3, now they're going to give you customization options on top of that stuff, and then they're going to make tweaks to the leveling system and different things like that. And even pre-sequel innovated in its own, few ways. It changed the formula a little bit, even if you just boil it down to now you're on the moon, so there's low gravity, and that causes a few different things. So I think Borderlands, and from what I understand, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is going to be no different. It's going to be another change to the formula. Now, instead of all gun blast fest, now we're getting magic, we're getting spells, and we're adding a fantasy element to it. And, we're adding an overworld that's different than just running from one place to another. It's still big and open, but when you get down to it, you're actually in these regions and stuff like that still. And so I think Borderlands is a great example of what you should do with an open world game. And there are scripted moments in Borderlands, where it's like you do get to the mission zone or whatever and get ambushed, or, you do get stopped halfway and have to go back, or, these things there's ways to change the mission and change the story narrative and everything on the dime, without having to just run 5 different places. And then Borderlands also is a game that tries to be humorous and make fun of itself and other open world games. Then they do have the missions where sometimes they'll even laugh and say, "We made you run everywhere for no reason, ha ha ha." Like, so, I think Borderlands is a great example of what you should do, with exactly what I mean when I say, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Because they do that. They give us the same thing every time, but it's different enough that, it sells like fucking hotcakes every single time they throw one out. Everyone's excited for Borderlands. I think the only one they haven't been excited for is Wonderlands, and there are people excited for it, and I'm excited for it. But I think that's purely because people are like, "Is this Borderlands or not?" because of the name change. But,
right.
But yeah. I definitely think it boils down to a formulaic issue. Now, I do want to move a little past that for a second here to say that I don't think, and it's something that, because we didn't argue or anything, but we had a little bit of a debate about it on stream, and we're like, well, I do want to sit here and say that when we say open world fatigue, open world burnout, and stuff like that, I don't think that it's necessarily everybody by any means getting super burnout in open world games, but definitely, like, here's a great example of when, like, if you think back to when that was at its when open world fatigue was at its peak. Far Cry 5 came out. Far Cry 5 was a fine game. It was fun. But Far Cry 5 felt a little empty and just felt like something was missing. And I think when I first talked about it with you, it hit me, and I was like, that's where I first kind of felt what he's talking about, was Far Cry 5, because, like, a few months after Far Cry 5 comes out, they throw out Far Cry 5 New Dawn. And it's a standalone game, but it's also a DLC, and it's such a blatant, just survival-based, like, almost rip-off, but it's by the same studio and everything, so it's not necessarily a rip-off, of Far Cry 5. And here's the weird thing, people at the time loved it. And I'm sure plenty of people still do, and it's a fine game, But go play Far Cry 5 and then play Far Cry New Dawn and tell me that you don't feel like an emptiness, from playing those experiences. There's just something about those two right there around that time where I kind of put down I didn't beat Far Cry 5. I put it down and I was like, I don't know, I just don't want to play it. And I think more than anything, that's the kind of feeling that we're talking about here. Because the reason I bring that up is the first time he said it to me, I was like, who the fuck's getting burnt out on open world games? Open world games are all over and they're still happening and they're still super popular. And then it hit me later. I felt like a dick because it hit me later. I was like, he didn't mean necessarily as a whole or a generalization like everybody's getting tired. It's just the formula and the games themselves is just, there's a sense of fatigue happening to people when you play these games. Certain games, at least, that is definitely getting to a point where it's like, if they keep putting them out in this shape, for sure there's going to be some mass pushback on this.
Right.
Yeah, I had a similar feeling when it came to playing like the Fallout games. Like, I love Fallout 3, but the ones that followed it, I felt burnt out on that style of a...
Right. And I think a lot of people did with Fallout 4 especially. Fallout 4 is a great game. Don't get me wrong. I'll tell everybody every day of the week, go play Fallout 4. It's a great game. But we talked about this as well. Me and you, Tidy, talked about how you felt it with like New Vegas. I like New Vegas, but with 4, especially, I played 4, and there was just something about it that because I would dump hours and hours and hours into Far Cry 3 in New Vegas, and then Fallout. And then Fallout 4 came out, and when Fallout 4 came out, I stayed up and went to the midnight release and everything, and I'm an adult now, so there is that as well. But I stayed up all night. I called into work next day, and I didn't even need to do that because I didn't even end up playing it half the next day. Like, I played it quite a bit that night, like maybe 5-6 hours. And then for some reason, I just couldn't dump as much time into it. I probably put 300, 400 hours into Fallout 3 or New Vegas. And Fallout 4, I was like, something about it. I don't know if I've still touched 100 hours with Fallout 4,
yeah, I think I only got like 30 hours on Fallout 4 versus, like the 300 or 400 I got in Fallout 3.
Yeah, so it's definitely a weird feeling. I think they're trying to change it though. I think we're a little late to the party to talk about the open world fatigue though, because I personally think we got Dying Light 2, which I think does pretty decent. It still definitely has some of those feelings and stuff. But I think it does pretty decent, and Techland is a great developer. They supported Dying Light up until the release of Dying Light 2, with new content, and they're going to do that with Dying Light 2. So they definitely, have their hands full, and I think they're going to do fine with it. Horizon Forbidden West. I'm looking at reviews for Horizon Forbidden West, and I'm seeing, here's an article right here. Horizon Forbidden West, this is from tomsguide.com. I don't use them too much, but they're more of a tech website for those that don't know Tom's Guide. But Horizon Forbidden West is open world gaming done right, is the title of this. And it even says open world games have become a slog. Like these, and I'm just skimming over it. These are like title card things. Open world games have become a slog. Horizon Forbidden West is an exceptional open world experience. We need more open world games like Horizon Forbidden West. And then when you read into some of these things, he brings up how the Arkham games toward the end of it started to feel a little Just Cause 4 compared to the other Just Cause games. Just Cause 4 is great, but it felt, kind of empty and just didn't feel great. It just became draining. And Horizon Zero Dawn was great too. I've been playing that recently to catch up again. Well, I beat it before, but trying to get it fresh on my mind again for this game. But yeah, this is out. Then we have Pokemon Legends Arceus that came out. And I have my gripes about that, but admittedly, that was a big change of form for Pokemon, because they kind of went open world. I At first, I was like, this isn't open world. This is like open region. This is kind of like Monster Hunter with the regions that you pick and stuff. But when I got in those regions, I realized I did take that back. Where I got in the regions and realized these are pretty big and open. I'll submit that it is open world. And so we have a bunch of games that are trying to change up their own formula, and I think that's what we need. Games that have a different formula. They're not open world, coming into that genre to do a few games in that genre as well, because then you're changing the formula of that open world experience by just changing the formula of the non-open world experience. You know what I mean? Like, you're adding the open world to games without that. And
it's kind of like how Square Enix has done like some of the Final Fantasy games recently, like Final Fantasy 15.
Right.
They had like an open world aspect to it, and the open world part of it was amazing.
Yeah, right. And I think I know people shit on Final Fantasy 15, which is weird because the game came out and everyone was like, this is great! And then here we are like few years later and people were like, yeah, I didn't like it. It's just fucking Square Enix fans, so I don't know what it is. I don't consider myself a Square Enix fan, even though I'm huge into Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy, but it seems like those asshats are always like fucking, you can't win with them, dude. Everyone hated Final Fantasy 13 when it came out, and now here we are years later and people being like, 13 wasn't bad, and everyone doesn't like sequels, but generally about 13, everyone now is like, yeah, 13 wasn't too bad, I liked it, And it was like, make up your fucking minds, dude.
I think in that regards, it's more like the old school fans versus the new school, basically.
Yeah.
Because the game genre has changed so much from where it was, Final Fantasy 1 to where it is today.
For sure. That's a big thing too. But yeah, I think Final Fantasy 15 did it great because I think that's a great way to take on open world games. The first half of the game, or probably first 3/4, I don't know, of the game is, in terms of chapters, it's not 3/4, but those last chapters fly by. So I would say the first half of the game, most of your time spent is going to be in that open world area. And then the rest of the game is linear. And I think that's an interesting way to do it because you gave them the open world experience and that you can go back later on to that open world experience, but then they make a lot of it linear and give you those cinematic moments and stuff and add that excitement back. If you started to get burnt out in the open world, just move on. Just move on to the linear experience. And I think that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, and I think something that's important to add to that is... even though I gave a definition of what the open world mechanic is, that doesn't mean a game has to, in its entirety, be open world.
Right.
And I think that actually, like you're saying, with that particular Final Fantasy, like that's something you can think about. Another one out right now, super popular. What I said before we started playing Lost Ark. Lost Ark does not start out as an open world game. It is linear. You unlock continents as you go. Right. But once you're at the end game, it definitely is an open world game, and it's huge.
Yeah, you're slowly unlocking that mechanic, as you go.
And GTA 3, and I can't remember which GTAs did it and which ones didn't, but I know GTA 3 did. You could only go to specific regions for part of the story, unless you use cheat codes and stuff, and then you could go anywhere. But it doesn't mean that a game has to be strictly one way or the other. I think there are great games that do a mixed medium, so to speak, on that, and they're fantastic.
Yeah, it seems like we're moving back into kind of the way we're moving back into using it as a mechanic and less as a genre. I think that's what happened, because we had that. You said that earlier, where you kind of treat it like a genre, but it's a mechanic, and I think that's the same thing for everyone. I think everyone has treated them as a genre when they're not. It's a mechanic, and now we're starting to see it used as a mechanic again. And I think if we can keep doing that and keep doing that well, I think that'll be great. God of War is a great example of a really good open world game because it's open, but it's a linear experience through this big, beautiful open world. And it doesn't. It's a big, beautiful world, but it doesn't necessarily give you that feeling where you have to get out there and explore. You keep moving the story. I don't know too many people who sit too long on God of War, like in one area, unless they're purposely trying to just get every little bitty thing, and 100% it. But that's a different breed of person in general. But still, most of the casual audience is going to play God of War and have a great time with it because it's big, beautiful, open, but you're moving linear, through that world. And so it uses that as a mechanic, in a way, because, here's this big lake and stuff, but we need you to get to the middle, turn this thing so that you can use the bridge and get to this other area. This other big open area. So you're using an open area to travel to another open area, and it's very much a mechanic and just an environmental like mechanic at that, more than actually being an open world game. Also, I wanted to go through real quick, just so everyone. I mean, I don't think we've talked open world games down too much or anything here, but it was something I wrote down that I want to do here. Just to make sure people understand, we're not shitting on open world games or anything like that. I love open world games. Some of my favorite games, I would say some of the best games of all time are open world.
Absolutely.
I would agree with that.
And I have a top 100 video games of all time list, and I'm not going through all of them, but let me just go through 100 to 90, 100 to 90 here, and half of these probably, I haven't looked at it yet, by the way. I'm willing to bet most of these lists, and this is from IGN, most right here on this list, just in this back 10 here, are going to be open world. 100 is Borderlands 2, so immediately. 99 is Divinity Original Sin 2. I would wager that is an open world game. I've played the game, but I guess it gets a little loose on the definition there because it's still open world for sure. Final Fantasy 7 has open world. You definitely get out when you get out of Midgar, you're traveling around the world and stuff. Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag, Monkey Island 2. I actually haven't played Monkey Island 2, so I don't know if that's open or not, or if that'd be considered
Not either,
open.
so I don't know anything about it.
I know of it, and I've seen it played. I don't think it would be considered one. I think it's pretty linear.
Yeah.
Burnout 3 Takedown. It's a Burnout game. It's semi-open world. Fallout 2, open world. League of Legends is MOBA. Mega Man 3 is a platformer side-scroller. Animal Crossing's New Horizons. I'm not going to call Animal Crossing New Horizons an open world game. I guess somebody can make the argument, but Thief 2 The Metal Age. I haven't played the old Thief games, so I actually don't know if that is. But I know New Thief is open world. Newer Thief is semi-open world. But yeah, just in that top 10 there, what was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Over half of the games in that 10 right there were open world.
Yeah.
And then we have Breath of the Wild somewhere probably on here, and Ocarina of Time. Here's my hot take. Ocarina of Time still better than Breath of the Wild, but I'm old. But yeah, number 1 on this list is Breath of the Wild. Open world. Massive.
You're gonna get canceled before.
I'm gonna get canceled. I'm telling you, I am, bro. Nobody wants to look. All I'm saying is Breath of the Wild 2 is huge open world, and it's a great game. I love Breath of the Wild. I said Breath of the Wild 2. Breath of the Wild is great. But I think Ocarina of Time does the open world thing a little bit better. It does what I was kind of talking about earlier, where you ride Epona through the field, you get somewhere where you're going, and then shit happens, and you go through a dungeon and shit happens. And then it uses that open world as a mechanic again, not just a complete, not just something completely to rely on for the game. So I think, I'm sorry, okay? I like Ocarina of Time. Sue me. I probably will be sued, but somebody will figure some way out. Be like, I fucking hate his opinion. But I don't know. I'm old. Either way, though, point is, a lot of this list here, open world games. So open world games aren't bad. I'm not shitting on them. Having said that, what are some of you guys' favorite experiences with open world games? Tidy, we could start with you on this one, man. So far, what is your favorite? I know what you guys want to say because what's about to come out, but we'll get there. Don't worry, we'll talk about it. But what's your favorite experience so far with an open world game?
Man, normally, honestly, it's just the world development, like the side quest that develops the worlds. Uh, you see it a lot, like in The Witcher, which is one of my favorite open world games I play.
Right, right.
Just meeting the side characters and learning about Geralt and how that affects him.
Yeah,
Those are some like wholesome moments
yeah,
to me.
yeah. I can agree. Um, what would you say that's your favorite open world game? Like game that uses open world?
Yeah, like I love how it goes about the open world. It'd probably be my favorite. It's really hard to decide between it and like Final Fantasy 15, for instance, just because I love
Right.
like the story of how Final Fantasy 15 like goes about the open world, and then like a mountain comes to life, in the middle of the world. That's a big moment,
God
even
damn
though
it.
it's not even that important in the grand scheme of things.
No, I mean that's after you have to beat the game to even get that to fucking happen. But yeah, no, it's a huge thing and what's hilarious, I was watching somebody it was a video about that specific the adamantoids on Final Fantasy 15. But the guy was like nobody expected it, even though literally the whole mission is people being like, yeah, the mountain moved. And like people are telling you, yeah, it's a mountain. It's a mountain. And they literally are saying, yeah, it's a mountain. And the whole time you're like, what am I going to fight? What is this? What am I going to fight? And then a fucking giant turtle comes out of the ground and lo and behold, you're fighting a goddamn mountain. So I think that, yeah, that's an incredible moment. Also, very cool use of that open world as well, because you are moving around this thing. Like, this thing is a part of the world is up until you beat the game. And then suddenly it's not there anymore because you fight it. Well, it's there, but you suddenly it's big and moving and you fight it. So that's 15's cool, and Witcher 3 is a great game, so that's a good one to name as well. Valion, what's your favorite open world experience, or you could talk about some of the mechanics that it brings along with it, like Tidy did too, but what's your favorite?
Um, I don't know that I have a specific favorite title. Um, I tend to enjoy games that use open world as a mechanical platform for surviving and just building yourself as a character.
Right.
Not necessarily these RPG elements that we see tacked on in a lot of games these days that are
Yeah.
part of the problem. But like I enjoy survival games, and so like it gets memed on a lot, but honestly, Minecraft has to be up there. It's definitely in the conversation.
I think it deserves it.
And it's a game that you can always go back to and see, and that's what those are the kinds of open world games that I like, and like The Witcher, and especially because they keep releasing DLC and crap for it, so it's like
Yeah.
you can always go back and enjoy the game.
Right.
Another one that it was well received but didn't get a whole lot of talk, Subnautica. I thought
Subnautica's great.
Subnautica, it is a fantastic game, and it's beautiful and
Hmm.
breathtaking, and it's claustrophobic, which is
Right.
really cool. In such a big game, you can't help feel closed in at
Right.
times,
Yeah, yeah.
which is neat.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna mention a title that a, a, a title that most people probably didn't play or forgot about,
Hmm.
but the Mercenary series from the old
God
PlayStation
dang, dude.
2 days. Those were open world. They
Yeah,
were.
yeah.
And it's a completely it's a 180 from the survival and world building element to it. What made the open world aspect fun was because you could destroy
Everything.
everything.
Yes.
And yeah, there was a story and there were missions and stuff to do,
No,
but
fuck that.
who did
Bro, I'm
those?
driving a tank and I'm blowing shit up. Fuck this, dude.
Yeah. Though I guess my last pick, if I had to, well, I'm not gonna say Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is up there, but everyone
Yeah.
loves that game.
Yeah.
The original Batman Arkham Asylum,
Right.
and Batman Arkham City.
Yeah.
I'd say in particular Batman Arkham City.
Yeah. I think they
That
peaked at
was
Arkham City was amazing.
Yeah.
they definitely, and no offense to the games that came afterwards, of the Batman games that were still
Experience
getting that are in that
Batman's parents'
same
death.
style.
You know.
Yeah, but I
And
think it peaked with City.
and that's just in a
I-
corner of
They
the
did,
city.
for sure.
You go to another
'Cause,
corner of the
they
city and
gave
there's
us
people getting
everything. They
mugged
gave
and
us
you
an
save
Arkham
them.
Asylum,
Go to another
but
corner of the
they
city, get
made
your
it
Riddler
better
trophy.
with Arkham
Go to
City.
another, you know.
Also,
It's just
Arkham City
over, like,
wasn't
it's
too
packed full.
big.
Like,
It's
it was
just
big
big
enough,
enough,
and gave
you
you
know?
plenty of, like, it was
Yeah,
packed.
that's a
great word.
Right? It was packed
think,
with shit to do.
especially
and
when we
to
want to
explore
talk
and
about
stuff
open
like
world
that.
series that have
There wasn't
innovated
there wasn't
the
one corner.
Batman
There's
series.
literally one
Not
corner
only
you
was it
go
like
to and just
Arkham City, the first good Batman game in ever, or well, years. I'll say
Yeah.
years, because technically there were a couple of good ones way back when, but
Yeah.
it it just, not only did it reinvigorate Batman as a video game, and one of those series that helped reinvigorate superheroes as video games, because
Right.
remember, a lot of them in the late 90s and early 2000s were shit.
Oh
They
yeah,
were
we got
awful.
the one good Spider-Man 2 game, and then everyone was like, "Yeah, superhero games suck for the most part." Though Spider-Man does okay, but everything else is pretty shitty. And then Batman came along from who is it? It's the Warner Bros. Studio, obviously, but the people that do the Shadow of Mordor games and stuff. I think it's them. I believe Rocksteady. I think it's Rocksteady.
It I was trying to look at, it's the developers, Rocksteady. Yeah,
Yeah.
Rocksteady and WB Games Montreal.
Yeah, they came out of nowhere like, wait, watch this though, and they fucking blew us away. And I know Rocksteady had a Superman game also in the works at one point, and then it had to get canceled, I think. But yeah, that's they came out of nowhere with that shit too. I mean, Arkham Asylum, obviously, but like we said, definitely the peak game there is Arkham City. I think they're the ones doing Gotham Knights as well, I believe. Which is the multiplayer Arkham style kind of game that we're getting, which I'm holding my breath on because multiplayer sounds like a cool idea for it, but I'm not sure if it will be.
Yeah,
we'll see.
but yeah, those are some of them. I'm one of those assholes that doesn't have favorites for most things.
I mean, that's
So,
fine. I think
you know-
if you start picking favorites and stuff, then you start picking apart other things, and everything else looks worse. And so I think it's fine to just kind of generally be like, yeah, I like games. I like video games.
they're generally good.
Yeah.
Good for you. Well, to some extent.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, those would be up there. There are obvious ones, like Breath of the Wild, but generally, yeah, I love environments, open world mechanic that builds environments that let you do things, that lets you destroy things, that lets you interact with it to
Yeah.
prove that it's living. And on the other side, like with Minecraft and stuff, that let you build your character, survive, like things that really emphasize the world itself, I guess is the best way to put it, because those are two aspects of that.
Yeah.
When open world is used to build the world, are the games that I like the best. And I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Overall, I would say my favorite, and it's gonna sound generic and cliche, but it is what it is. I'm that kind of guy, I guess. My favorite, like, just besides not bringing a game into it specifically, but just like my favorite feeling that I get from open world games is just, and if you watch my stream, you see this all the time. I'll play an open world game and I'll go to like a mountain or a cliffside, and I just like to look. I just like to look.
Yeah.
I just like to look at the shit, dude. Because it's always beautiful. Especially if you're, I don't want to sit here and say PC or console, PC Master Race or anything like that, but there is a feeling that I get when I play these games on console that is a little different than PC, because PC, you're worried about frame rate and everything like that. Console, typically, not all the time, but typically, it's pretty optimized to where when you look at those overlooks and stuff, they just got everything set and optimized just right where nothing looks bad in the distance. It's just, you look out and, maybe they have fog or something to help cover up some of the lower resolution or something in the distance, but everything just looks great. And you just want to take a screenshot and use it as a wallpaper for 5 fucking years, like you just,
Yeah.
And there's games that aren't obviously open world that do this too, but Borderlands 3, when they had the photo mode thing thrown in there, dude, oh my god. I think I streamed 6 hours one night when on Borderlands 3 when that came out, when that specific mode came out in an update, and I was just taking pictures of everything, dude, and editing them and stuff. I wanted to be there taking pictures of the world. Like, I just like the feeling of looking out and seeing that vast place, and the feeling of being like, I pretty much get to go there, like that mountain in the distance. I pretty much can go there. I can fuck with all of that. And I like the exploration and stuff like that, which is the part that probably burns a lot of people out because it's like, it might be too much or it might be fairly empty or this or that. But overall, I like the feeling of going there, and a lot of these developers do great. Techland with Dying Light and stuff does this really well, where you'll go over there or something, and you might be looking around, and then there's just a book or a tape or something to play out there, and it's like, oh, here's some lore for you while you're looking at this beautiful scenery, and or it just has a sometimes with some games has kind of a cinematic moment where you stop for a second and your character does takes control away from you for a second and it just looks around for you and it's like, yeah, you found it, look at it. I just like that feeling with video games. And to name a few, I would say ultimately I can't not say it, one of my favorite open world experiences has got to be Skyrim. None of us have said anything about it because admittedly it's overplayed and it's been out since 2011, but it's still going back to it. If I turned it on right now, I'd still find a mountain and look over everything just because it's this beautiful environment that you just get to look at and you can explore all of it. Moving on from that though, let's talk about it. Elden Ring, dude. Comes out 5 days. I wanted this episode to come out before it releases, so I'm gonna get it out before it releases. 5 fucking days, man. For those that don't know what Elden Ring is, let me give you a quick rundown. Do you know what Dark Souls is? Do you know what Bloodborne is? Do you know what those types of games are? I'm sure you do. If you don't, they're really hyper, like, kind of difficult, medieval, usually pretty linear games where you go through, you die, you go through, you die, you go through, you die, and then eventually you don't die and you kill a boss or you die to the boss and either do it again or move on. And they're really fun games, and obviously for those of you, I do know for those of you that are out there that are super fans, there's all this hidden lore and these characters and stuff that will say things and trigger things, and they're great games, but Elden Ring is an open world version of that. It's another one of those games I was talking about with like Pokemon Legends Arceus that takes their own formula and just throws open world into it, which by default changes the open world experience. And so it's going to, I assume, be a hyper difficult medieval experience, but open world. Oh, and wait, George R. Martin is writing for it. So, the Game of Thrones guy, in case you, for some reason, just didn't know, yeah, that guy is just, took interest in it. I don't know. I don't know what the history is behind it. I tried not to watch too much behind the scenes or anything, but, yeah.
My understanding is that he didn't have a whole lot of actual input on the game, actually.
Really?
Yeah, he was there for creative direction and like to help build the outline of a story, but that it's From Software, right? They're the ones who do that,
right?
or is it? Yeah, they're the ones who actually built it. So he was responsible for that part of the creation, but for everything else, like he was very hands off.
Right.
I could be wrong, but that seems to, for some reason, that's sitting in my head. So I've had to have seen that somewhere.
Right.
But everyone, do your fact checking. I could be completely wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I haven't looked into it, so you might be right. Which, don't get me wrong, I think there's some people that'll be excited about that. Because From Software does their thing with the lore. Because even look, I'm going to get some hate. I love the Soulsborne games and stuff. I didn't read into the lore. I didn't know that that there was this much. I do now, but I didn't know for a long time that there was this much deep lore in the game and stuff like that. If you really looked and everything, I mean, there are hours and hours and hours thousands of hours worth of content on YouTube where you can go and hear these people basically describe to you. You know, they'll see one fucking person sitting in a corner and give you his whole life story somehow. So there are people, I'm sure, that are going to very much be happy about that, and be like, good, it gave us a general outline and stuff like that. But I think that's good, though. Why not use the guy who world built this big ass, huge IP and built the world around it? Why not give him, the direction to say, at the very least, give us an outline to kind of work with here for our, massive world. So even if he just did that, that's fine too. If Tolkien was alive, I'm sure some game studio would be like, dude, can you at least give us an outline for something? Like, admittedly though, George R. R. Martin takes so much time doing stuff that they probably didn't want him to write everything. They were probably like, look, brother, we got to put this game out at some point. This thing can't sit here forever, so we need you to either need you to pick it up or you're going to do some loose stuff for us. And admittedly, a lot of it's probably for marketing. I'm not going to lie. Some of it's probably just like, hey, look, we got George R. R. Martin to do stuff here. And that's pretty cool too. You guys hyped for it though? You guys ready for it?
Yeah.
I'm super hyped.
You guys got any idea how you're gonna play or anything like that? I know. Pretty much everyone I know are the type of people that aren't looking super into everything about it. But you guys have any idea what kind of character you're gonna go for or what you're gonna do?
I want to try everything, honestly.
You want to try everything?
So, it's hard to really say. Like all the Dark Souls games, I've beat them, numerous times. I've played it, every which way you can, right?
Right.
So, like, normally I go like a dex build in Dark Souls.
Okay.
This game, I'm probably gonna go more like a intellect style build. I don't know if it's called intellect in this game.
Intelligence.
I'll be looking at like some sort of magic or something like that. I've heard there's some really cool new ideas they've brought into the Elden Ring games with the magic side that I want to try.
See, I was actually really interested in the magic stuff too. I've loosely looked into the classes, if you want to call them that. They exist in the game. They're just, it's Soulsborne games anyways have classes, but you could do a lot of stuff with them still. But yeah, there's an astrologer class, and it's an intelligence focused class. And I'm pretty into that. And don't get me wrong, it's probably a little bit derived from Final Fantasy XIV. Just because I thought that was cool. I was like, oh, nice, astrologian, nice. But yeah, that's one of the more intelligence focused thing. I think that's the most intelligence focused thing from the get go. What I think is really interesting with these games though is you start when you pick these if you pick a class, you start at a level, like a higher level than 1 normally. If we're soul level, whatever you want to call it. And then they always have the one fucking character that's trash. Then they always call them trash or something like. I think this game calls it a wretch. And that's your level 1 character. Which admittedly, to a lot of people is the best way to start because you can just round them out how you want. But yeah, I think that's interesting. What are you most excited for out of this? If you had to pick something, like whether it's just a mechanic, whether it's the world, whether it's the story, whether it's the combat. What are you guys most excited for out of Elden Ring?
For me, it's going to be the story and the boss fights. Like, I've always loved the boss fights in Dark Souls.
Right. What do you got, Valium?
That we get a motherfucking horse to ride.
Dude, what? I remember when we got the announcement of Elden Ring, but we got no look at it. It was just an announcement, and we knew who was making it and everything. And then we started hearing rumors of open world and stuff. I remember reading somewhere someone being like, "I swear to God, if this is a big open world and we don't have a horse, dude, I'm gonna kill myself." Could you imagine a Soulsborne game? It wouldn't surprise me, is the thing. A Soulsborne game would not surprise me if they gave us an open world Soulsborne game, and then they were like, "No horse, you gotta walk everywhere." Oh, and the bonfires or whatever they use in this game are few and far between. So good fucking luck. It wouldn't surprise me at all. But yeah, that's pretty nice. Also, from what I understand, the horse mechanics are very nice. That's something I didn't think I'd ever have to say on a podcast or anywhere, but the horse mechanics are good, apparently.
Well, to be more serious, I've actually, outside of like very baseline things, I'm going into this game blind.
Right.
And that's something I guess I should remark that I like to do in open world games in general is, unless it's something that I know I need to be prepared for because maybe there's some random high level of complexity, I like going into open world games blind. I don't care if I'm not running an optimal build or shit like that, especially because I know with Souls-like games, they tend to be like, oh, you got to put your points here and there and get this gear and stuff, and
Right.
kind of like how MMOs used to be before they've streamlined most of them these days.
Yeah.
But I like going into it blind and experiencing the world fresh. And when I find those mechanics, it makes it even sweeter. Like, oh shit, I can totally build this class, or like the astrology thing. I didn't even know that. Like, so I'm sitting here like, holy shit, there's an astrologer. Like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. That's why you don't look into this stuff, kids. That way you can go into it and get real surprised. Because now he's biased. Now he's biased. He heard it and he's like, oh shit.
Which, and I'm not saying like, and I'm not mad that you said that or anything. Like, sometimes I'm real pissy on spoilers, but in this case, it's like, oh, well, that's dope. But there's still so much of the game that I don't know anything about.
Yeah.
And that's honestly, if I had to give a serious answer to what am I looking forward to the most, discovering the game. Like, I won't be picking it up
Just experiencing
at launch, because I'm kind of a slowpoke when it comes to playing big titles that come out. Plus, I'm still grinding my ass on Lost Ark,
Right.
and I probably will be for at least another week. But yeah, once I finally get it, it's just gonna be to open it up and explore.
Right.
That's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, something I like to remind everyone, and I probably remind everyone every episode, but you got to remember sometimes video games are an experience, especially open world video games. You definitely, you want to play these games to just go in and experience the world, experience the lore, and things like that. That's why that's 100% the reason I would wager that video games are the highest, grossing entertainment medium out there. Purely because it is an experience. You're not paying, like, movies you could say are an experience for sure. I don't want to take that away from books and movies and stuff like that. 100% they are too. But this is such a more interactive experience than anything else, So, I think that's a beautiful sentiment to say, that I just want to experience the game. I just want to get in and there it is, here it is. I'm moving in it. I'm doing things in it. I'm interacting with this world. I, from here on, am changing this world. and I think that's awesome. To say that, to pick that. What has been your favorite Soulsborne experience so far, Tidy? Like, what's your favorite game out of that genre? I guess now that it's a genre.
I haven't played Bloodborne.
You haven't played Bloodborne, you piece of shit. Get out of here and don't come back to my podcast ever. No, but
when I say I haven't played it, like I've played it, but I haven't finished it, so I kind of like not being played, right?
All right.
Dark Souls 3 would probably be like my favorite, like going from like a solo experience, like that game, like fighting the dancer is amazing. Like,
okay.
I love that fight.
Yeah.
But I love playing like Dark Souls 2 with like friends and stuff.
Right.
So.
Okay. Valiant's grabbing water right now. I'll go ahead and give my favorite Soulsborne experience personally. And I've dabbled in the games that aren't necessarily from FromSoft as well, that are Soulsborne experiences. You know, you have some 2D kind of Soulsborne experiences and from other people. I think my first one that wasn't a FromSoft game that I played that was Soulsborne-esque was, god damn it, I can't remember the name. It was free. It was free with PlayStation Plus 1 month on PS4. It was something else kind of like it. Either way, my favorite though is it's got to be Bloodborne. And some people, don't get me wrong, Bloodborne has its own cult following. So there's plenty of people that are like, yes, right now. But there's a lot of people, I'm sure they're gonna be like, that doesn't even count. Or you know, like for some reason there's a weird. That game specifically is very divisive among the Bloodborne community, because they're like, I mean, that would be why it's called the Bloodborne genre and community and stuff, rather than or not Bloodborne, Soulsborne. The Soulsborne community now is because you had, you know, it would have been the Souls community, and then Bloodborne came out and changed up the mechanics and everything so much that people were like, well, fuck, Soulsborne now, you know? I know a lot of people are like, no, it's just called that. The community's just called that because it's a Souls game, and then there was Bloodborne. But no, I'm pretty convinced that no, it's Soulsborne because that changed some of the mechanics pretty dire. But yeah, my favorite FromSoft and Soulsborne experience would have to be Bloodborne. Because I'm a quicker paced dude. I like quicker pacing stuff. When I played Dark Souls, I have the Demon Souls remake on PS5. It's beautiful, by the way. It's great. I like to play dexterous kind of builds or magic kind of builds and stuff, and people say a lot of the time that those are the easier ways to play the game. But whatever. Because I like quicker pacing. And those games are slow, usually. And they're slow on purpose, but I like those games that they give you that. They still give you the option to take those quicker builds and stuff like that, because they know that there are going to be people that play those games that no matter what you do in the game, to make it slow, they're still going to want to play it faster and at a faster pace. And I'm one of those people. So Bloodborne was right up my alley because it's faster, it's a little tighter on certain things, and you know, it was huge for me. When that came out, I remember probably one of the first actual gaming pieces of content that I ever put out in the world. Wasn't on YouTube, Twitch, or anything. It was I think it was about a 15-minute upload to Facebook, just my personal page on Facebook, of the first boss, on Bloodborne. You're gonna hate me because I don't remember his name. The Cleric Beast? Yeah, I think it was called the Cleric Beast. On the bridge on Bloodborne, and because it was the first Soulsborne game that I'd ever played, and just immediately I killed the first boss first try. It was a fight. It took a while, but I did kill him first try, and I felt good, and I was like, hell yeah, and I uploaded it to Facebook. And that was like, that was probably 2015 or so. That's probably around the time that I started doing YouTube and stuff, but I think it was my first upload of any sort. But yeah, so Bloodborne would be mine. Valion, now that you're back, what is your favorite Soulsborne experience so far. Like it doesn't have to be a FromSoft Soulsborne game, but just Soulsborne experience.
Actually, people are gonna hate me.
Right.
I haven't played most of them.
That's okay.
I played part of Dark Souls 2.
Right.
I
That's
didn't
the
play
one that
Dark
got a lot
Souls
of
1.
people. Yeah.
I did play some Demon Souls, the old version.
Yeah.
Haven't played Dark Souls 3. Did play a little bit of Sekiro, but it would
All right.
have to therefore go to Bloodborne because that's the one that I've played the most of. And also for another element, it's Lovecraftian, it's cosmic
It is,
horror,
yeah.
it's a Victorian gaslight cosmic horror, and that is just one of those things that if you tell me a game is set in a steampunk-esque Victorian gaslight setting with cosmic horror elements, I will crack a boner so hard that
Crack a boner, bro. Holy fuck. I've never
That's
heard
rough.
that. I've never heard that in my life. I'll crack a fucking boner so hard, bro. God damn, it sounds
break my damn
painful,
desk.
bro. It's not even a pleasureful experience anymore, which I guess it really sums up Soulsborne games. You like them so much, but goddamn, they hurt so much. It's
Well, and also for those who don't really know a whole lot about Lovecraftian, cosmic horror, eldritch horror genres, the Gaslight period is one of the big ones. It's one of the big three. The other is the standard 1920s early America setting or early Europe setting, and then the other one is modern day. But it also lends itself in the same way that, yeah, those games are rough. So are those cosmic horror adventures and tabletops. Like,
yeah.
Call of Cthulhu, the running joke has always been bring 5 characters. Bring 5 character sheets because you are damn sure gonna lose at least 4 of them before might even be before the session's over with.
So what you're saying is Call of Cthulhu is the Soulsborne tabletop game.
Yeah, actually, I would say it would be an argument for that.
Yeah. Okay.
It's very tough. It is very intensive. It's wonderful. I would love to take people through some Call of Cthulhu adventures someday. Every time I try to get a campaign together, it always falls through.
All right. Well, sign me up.
But yeah, and so yeah, if you want to say cracking a boner's painful, then yeah, I love the pain. I love the pain. So.
Okay. All right. We'll move away from Elden Ring for now. We do have a little bit of gaming news that I found. This article was published 23 hours ago, so I assume this stream happened very, very recently. I didn't see it, and I just kind of threw it in the chat and was like, "Hey, we talked a little bit about this." We three, and specifically, this is the only reason I'm bringing this into this podcast because we three are all fans of Final Fantasy XIV. We're playing Lost Ark right now, or at least me and Valion. Tidy, have you hit Lost Ark at all yet?
It's on my to-do list. I just haven't got it installed yet.
It's free to play, man. Just go ahead and get it going, brother.
Yeah, it's just one of those work things, haven't been around much to get on games.
There's his job, man. There's periods where he's like available every day, and then there's periods where it's like you're not gonna hear from Tidy for 2 weeks, bro.
Where the hell did Tidy go?
Yeah, he's dead, dude. For all we know, And then I make that joke, and then I always feel bad because then I really don't hear from him for a while. I'm like, oh shit, he might be dead, bro. Like it might be real. And then he comes back, hey man, how you doing? Like nothing ever happened. Like okay. Either way, we're all three fans of Final Fantasy XIV here, and I still, just because of the server issues and everything happening, and I just haven't gotten around to the new expansion stuff yet. Besides playing the new class, which I fucking love, but with Final Fantasy XIV, real quickly, I'm going to throw out there, people were really scared because Square Enix were really squared that Square Enix would add NFTs to Final Fantasy XIV. Well, I'm not gonna get in the whole debate on NFTs, but either way, whether we like it or not, they're probably here to stay for a while, and they're probably going to be in some video games. And people were terrified that they were going to be in Final Fantasy 14, but luckily, in the latest letter to the producer live stream, the Yoshi P from Final Fantasy 14, the game director, Father Yoshi, all praise, has come out and been like, nah, we're not doing NFTs in Final Fantasy 14 at this point. He does make the point to say at this point, so.
Well, if you read that article again, it says afterwards, and this is what I like about it, that, some people are like, well, he said at this point, and then it says afterwards, he clarified, no, they're not going to be in 14.
Okay, great. Oh yeah, we're not going to be including NFTs in Final Fantasy 14. Yeah. But he did give us some insight into some stuff that we're going to see. First of all, real quick, the free trial is going to return as of February 22nd. So it's already, it's 2 days. 2 days. Free trials are going to be back. So I assume server issues are being straightened out and they're spinning up more servers and doing what they have to do there. But also, with version 7.0, we're getting a graphical update, which I've talked to people about MMOs and stuff before, and I'm just a graphics guy. I just like graphics. I just think if the prettier the game is, the better. It's hard for people. I don't know why people debate that with me. People are all the time like, no, man, they should keep it like this, or why, and I'm sitting here like, why not? If I understand the argument that, like, maybe with WoW and stuff like that, there's older people with just worse computers and stuff. I get that. But, there's always a low setting. Anyways, but yeah, and just to give you a quick overview here, be getting higher resolution hair, skin, gear, with improved shaders. The overall appearance will try to be changed as little as possible. Environments and dungeons are getting higher res textures. They'll be keeping the current aesthetic, though, rather than aiming for photorealism, which is a little weird for Final Fantasy, of all things, to do that. Not go for photorealism, but either way, that's fine with me. But I like it. I'm glad that they're actually one of the few MMOs that's like, yeah, let's update some stuff graphically. I understand, again, why a lot of them don't do it, but I think eventually, sometimes, man, it just helps to even if you don't make it prettier, do something to the graphic style. Do something, change it up a little bit, because that keeps people. I think that keeps things fresh. And there's some screenshots here of character creation and stuff like that kind of show the difference in the hair textures, and it just helps it to not look as muddy on the hair. Shadows look way better. It just feels a little bit more like it's its own thing, instead of really kind of low resolution kind of fake characters and stuff. Don't get me wrong, Final Fantasy 14 is probably one of the best graphically looking MMOs in general. But it definitely is gonna look a little bit better now. What do you guys looking forward to that? What do you guys think about a graphical change? What do you guys think about graphical upgrades and stuff in general in MMOs?
Well, I'm excited for the ones in 14, and if you look at the picture with the improved metal texture,
right?
That's a huge change.
That's a big change.
And this is only their first month of testing.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see what it's going to look like when it's done, though.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think graphic improvements is always nice on the eyes. I love modding Skyrim for that reason.
Right.
Just to improve the graphics, because it is such an older game. Bringing it up to more of today's standard, it just makes it look prettier and brings a new look to the world.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. What do you got, Valion?
Yeah, no, I agree that it's, with everything that you guys have said so far. I also think it's important. Well, funny story first though. The way that the new updates to the characters actually kind of look like the old graphical settings. I think it was from the original 14, or when like before they launched ARR, or it might have been like the initial and then they rolled it back, because um, apparently during one of those phases, the early days of Realm Reborn or the original 14, the graphics were actually better. You could see like individual hair strands
Oh
and
shit.
all sorts of stuff, but it was such a load on people's PCs that they scaled it back. And at least that's my understanding of the story. That might be incorrect, but I just find it funny if so, if that is the case, because these updated graphics look like the pictures I had seen of those, except even better than that. But I think the important part is that it also shows that because one of the things that people were concerned about with Endwalker was it being the final expansion. Like, oh god, it's called
Right.
Endwalker, and if you play the story, I'm not going to spoil it. It does have a certain finality to it, uh, in a sense,
Right.
but
And he said it's like closing up at least the saga or whatever.
yeah, but uh, Yoshi P and the dev team said a long time ago, and I forget where, I don't have an article in front of me, that they planned for there to be 8 total expansions. And so I think this is further proof that they are at least sticking to their guns for at least a couple more expansions. And especially because I think in one of those letters, they said that they had content up through 8.0 done, as far as like story and what they wanted to do.
Right.
So this is even further proof that, hey, this game is going to be it for a bit. I know there's the somewhat unfounded idea that uh, 17 was possibly going to be the next MMO, and it still might. I'm not going to rule that out, because technically 11 is still chugging along too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
It's pretty strong.
I guess that's where the theory comes from. It was 11, then 14. It's like, well, what's 14 plus 3? 17.
Oh
But
no.
yeah, I think it's proof that the game is going to stick around for a while, and that it has such a great community. And that is one thing you were talking about, the Square Enix fans. The 14 community is way more wholesome. There are some
It is.
toxic people, but it's
Yeah.
on the whole, it's way better. And this is proof that we're going to get to stick around in that world and hang out with our friends.
Yeah.
And I am all for that.
Right. Oh, speaking of hanging around in the world and with our friends and stuff and MMOs, this isn't an MMO episode, obviously, but I do want to talk about, if you guys haven't already, be sure to register for an alpha key from Palia, that MMO that's supposed to just kind of be a community-based, for fun, little just MMO from some of the old WoW developers and stuff like that, because they're about to move into alpha phase. Instead, they're out of closed alpha and moving into alpha like phase soon. And they announced that the game is going to be free to play. Which worries people, because earlier in the development they said, and it's still on their FAQ, so I don't think they've changed this, but it does worry people because they're like, oh, what are they going to do to monetize it? But they said earlier in the development, they at that point, and so far in the FAQ still, they're not even looking at like any kind of a shop, even for cosmetics or anything. So it may be free to play, and what they might mean like free to play, but you have to buy, like you don't need a sub, they haven't really, oh, it says right here, my bad, I'm an idiot. As you read in the blog, Palia's monetization will be based on cosmetics only purchases. So I guess they have backtracked on that a little bit and they're doing cosmetics only, which is fine. I'm fine with cosmetics only. But I assume they're going to do like emotes and stuff like that, and which would be a cool, in this world, emotes would just make it a little bit more cozy and everything. So I think that's cool. I think that's fine. But yeah, so make sure you are registered for that if you are not already. I'm part of their Discord, so I see when they make these announcements. Yeah, this was a big thing that just happened like last week, where they were like, our most frequently asked question is, how much will Palia cost? And today we're announcing that it will be free. So it's cool. But yeah, back to Final Fantasy XIV. Yeah, the community aspect of Final Fantasy XIV is great. And then you have the MMO community in general, I think, those are usually the ones that are over there being super toxic, just because they play every MMO and they have to, if you're not if your damage isn't keeping up, then fuck you, and but yeah, I found an article that said that's talking about how Final Fantasy 14 was looking to end up doing a 10-year story, and that was around 8 years ago that they were talking about that. So, it would make sense that we still have a couple more years at least with Final Fantasy 14. That's the closest thing to something like that I've found, but that's just a quick, Google. But yeah, man. Either way, I'm excited for everything in the open world department that we're getting so far. Oh yeah, I do want to say something about it real quick, just because it exists and it's out there. You can't talk open world games without talking about Red Dead Redemption 2. I just want to quickly throw that out there, that Red Dead Redemption 2, I think a lot of people, I watched a couple videos the other day and read a lot of stuff. A lot of people consider that to be the best open world game, of all time. Which I'm not here to debate whether it is or not, but I'll say that, admittedly, it's hard for me to argue. I don't know if you guys have played Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, I don't know that I agree with that, but I definitely think there's a strong argument for it.
Yeah. That's how I feel about it. It's it's not my favorite game, so it's hard for me to agree, because I'll go back to the Ocarina of Time thing, but but
I mean, I would have it in a top 5, but I couldn't have it as my number 1.
Right. I think it does open world as good as it can, pretty much, for what it is. But with Rockstar games, you get that, though. You get a world that kind of feels alive and it's big and open. That's what they do. And somehow they keep doing it with a formula, but enough of a change that they always feel pretty interesting. GTA 5 still fucking selling. Still selling copies somehow. I don't know how they haven't outsold Tetris by now. I would assume it's just because Tetris always comes out on literally everything. But yeah, for those of you that don't know, Tetris is, I think, still the highest grossing video game of all time, or it was for a long time. IP, not just the first Tetris, but the game in general. Yeah, I just want to throw Red Dead Redemption 2 in there real quick, just because lately there's a lot of talk, and people really think that that's going to, that might be considered in that ballpark of greatest open world game of all time, and maybe,
What's
up?
Go ahead, Tidy.
Oh, I didn't say nothing.
I actually think that reminds me. I saw a thread over on one of the random subreddits I constantly look at, about how the likelihood of us ever seeing another Red Dead game is extremely low because of just how well that GTA 5 does and continues to sell. And it's one of those game series. It's in the running with Skyrim. That this is why make a new one? We just keep selling this one or putting on new platforms. But I do hope we eventually do get a new Red Dead game. Don't get me wrong. I would totally be fine if we didn't, because the story, for the most part, does feel whole. And I think that's something else that needs to be said is you don't always have to make a new sequel.
Yeah,
that's the one thing I will argue with the people who are like, make GTA 6 and blah blah blah. It's like,
GTA 5
okay,
is great.
sure. Yeah, GTA 6 would be great, but you don't always have to have a sequel.
Yeah, it doesn't have
what was it we were discussing the other night? In a similar vein, like music artists just putting out 1 or 2 albums and then calling it quits. It's like, yeah, you can totally do that. That's fine. No one is going to judge you. Well, no one who matters anyway is going to judge you if you want to rest on your laurels. Do I personally agree with that approach? No. I think you should always strive to outdo yourself, but I'm not going to, shit on someone who doesn't. And same thing with games. if it tells a complete story, why fuck it up? Why
Yeah,
take the chance?
for
Like, just
sure.
quit.
Yeah.
You clearly proved your point. So
Right. And see, that's something I was gonna bring that up actually. Not the exact same thing, but something like that with when I was talking about Borderlands and if it's not broke, don't fix it, you know. And I think that's another thing they're doing really good. We got Borderlands up to 3. Admittedly, we're getting Wonderlands now. I think the two best steps for 2K and Gearbox to make with Borderlands is now let's see a few Wonderlands games where we see like this fantasy kind of stuff with more classes, more customization and stuff in that vein. And then for Borderlands, either give us an MMO that you update over 5-10 years or don't. I think that's the next best steps, and I think that's really the only steps they can make. Obviously they can make just Borderlands 4, and I'm sure it'll sell. I'm sure it'll do great, and I'm sure it'll be great. But to me, I'm like, Borderlands 3 nailed the final, put the final nail in not the coffin, but I don't know, in the statue of Borderlands, the sculpture of Borderlands. It added that final little bit that was missing from Borderlands, which is more customization. And it opened up the world for more vaults and stuff like that, and you see all of these vaults, and you're building like this collection of vault hunters and stuff. Why not take that and go MMO route with it now? Sanctuary 3 or 4, they're on their ship is called Sanctuary on Borderlands 3. Why not go ahead and just have a planet or just a big space station, and that's your hub, and that's Sanctuary 4 or whatever, and now just put out expansions of vault hunting, and MMOs are loot based grinds anyways. That's Borderlands, Now just have it where you're playing with more people instead of just your friends. Maybe lower the graphics a little bit, because Borderlands 3 is a hell of a fucking game to run. And for an MMO,
God, yes.
in an MMO, you don't want to go that far with the graphics. Borderlands 3 on medium, shoot for that. But I think that's the best way for them to take that is let's go Borderlands MMO, and then for single player or co-op games and stuff, shoot Wonderlands into its own little franchise over here and give us that to appeal to those kind of fantasy people that want to play that, even though there's still guns in it. But, I think that's the way to go with that. And that would fit within that narrative where it's like you've done it, you've done what you need to with this. You don't have to keep doing it. You don't have to keep doing more. Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge Borderlands fan. I love it. Huge Kingdom Hearts fan. I love it. You don't have to do those anymore. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, the Kingdom Hearts fanboy is saying you don't have to give us more Kingdom Hearts. But as much as I love Kingdom Hearts, I'd be fine if they wrapped it up on 3. And they could just do spin-offs of like other games with Keyblade wielders and stuff like that, or this or that. They're not going to. It's Square Enix, and we're on fucking Final Fantasy 16 right now. So they're not gonna do that. They're the one company that specifically is like never enough and keeps fucking doing it. But they're also like hardcore, like being over here like we're capitalists, so they want their money.
But I would say like the difference between Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts is like Final Fantasy, each game is a standalone.
Yeah, each game is different. Kingdom Hearts has been a general story arc, like over this whole time. That might be where they're going with Kingdom Hearts. I don't want to talk about Kingdom Hearts too long, but that might be where if you play the DLC for Kingdom Hearts 3, I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but let's just say that Kingdom Hearts could be stepping away from, we already know they're stepping away from the story arc. They announced that before Kingdom Hearts 3 was out. Yeah, they could very much be stepping into something where it's like, yeah, we're gonna keep the general idea of it and go this way with it or something, and they might. Either way, it was great talking to you guys about open world games today. Thank you guys for coming. I appreciate you guys for being here, talking about these things with me. Valion, you got anything to shout out, man? You always shout out some interesting stuff. You got anything for us?
Have I read or watched or done anything interesting lately? Not really. I guess if I had to give a shout out, again, that excellent article write-up from Ethan Moss I've never met the dude. I don't know any other articles he's written so far. But shout out to how to put it. Shout out to actually having some integrity in the journalism field. That is, 2022
Right.
and its horrendous existence.
Right.
And shout out to shout out to Smilegate for putting out such an addictive ARPG, because we know Blizzard probably never will get around to it again. And fuck Blizzard. But yeah, nope, that's all for me.
That was your shout out. Fuck Blizzard. What do you got, Tidy? You got any kind of shout outs or anything you wanna throw out there?
No, not today.
Not today. All right. Obviously, I'm Zenith Darksky. I'm going to shout out my shit. My YouTube's popping off. Be sure to go over there. I'm doing music reactions and stuff on it right now because I've got a busy life. I don't want to get into all that, but I've got a busy life right now. Shit's going crazy. Literally, my car almost broke down today, so... Yeah, check out my YouTube and check out my Twitch as well. Both of those are Zenith Darksky on Twitch. It's one word. On YouTube, it's not. If you found this, though, then you could easily find me anywhere. On my socials and stuff as well, you can check those out. My Instagram is finally about to be terminated from a follow-a-thon goal. For some reason, it's taken like 3 months for them to terminate it, so I've just been posting stuff on it still. But yeah, that's about to go away. I'll make a new one, though, and actually do things right on there this time. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. That's where I'm probably most active with my thirsting over female celebrities and whatnot, and shouting out video games and also yelling at people. I'm just an angry old weird man on Twitter. Other than that, remember, real quick, the best way to spread attention for a podcast, I say it in every episode, and I'll keep saying it till the day I die probably, or until the analytics change about it, but the best way to spread any information about podcasts, except for the really big ones, is word of mouth. So be sure to tell your friends if you enjoy this, that it's something that you like or are passionate about and you'd like them to listen to as well. You can catch me almost anywhere on this podcast, like Blueberry. I don't even manage a lot of my stuff on those other platforms, but Blueberry, Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere. I'm everywhere. So be sure that you hit that follow button or sub button or whatever it is that your platform has that you're listening on. Rate and review it, please. Hopefully positive. But if you've got constructive criticism or something, I don't care, man. Go ahead and give it to me. If you've got any interesting topic ideas or anything like that, you can reach me at darkskygamenews@gmail.com if you want to reach out directly or DM me on Twitter. Either way, that's it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for listening so far. I appreciate you guys, and we will see you in the next one.